Hello, Chief here.
Hi, Junjun.
Okay, Tom.
All right.
Start with your new picture.
No, I don't know where it's coming from. On my Zoom, it says that it is you, this picture. All right. Do you think we should get started, or do we want to wait a couple of minutes for more people to join? And usually Abhishek joins too.
I think we can get started with the agenda.
Sounds good.
So Cody, you were supposed to present something today. Is that right? Or
today I just wanted to briefly talk about, get your feedback on some of the CNCF things that we've been discussing.
okay.
Did everybody get a copy of what I sent out last night?
Yes.
I got it.
I did. I didn't go through it yet, but yeah.
Okay. So basically, we are considering submitting the project as a CNCF sandbox project. And as such, we need to put together a proposal for the. And so I have taken a first run at that proposal. In what I need from the team is information about what features I might be missing, or highlights that I need to make in regards to OVS or to other aspects of the project. And I also need to make sure that one piece that I'm still missing is the architecture document, and I also submitted a issue related to generating a list of dependency projects and those licenses that are associated with those dependency projects, because that's also going to be required as part of the CNCF proposal submission. So we'll open the floor. If there's anyone that has gone through the document or can suggest, changes, I'm all ears on that, and want to get a second draft out today to the maintainers of the project and make sure that we've got all our bases covered there.
And I think related to that, there was a CNCF Network SIG meeting. I think that was the first meeting, right? Last week
Correct.
or the week before that, and they reviewed 2 projects, right, for CNCF, including
Correct.
Contour and another one. So I think
I
people
remember Contour. Yep.
Yeah, so I think people who didn't look at watch the meeting, maybe I think the spec for Contour, I mean the application for Contour is available online as well.
Yeah, that was my question as well. Cody, did you already compare these applications?
I actually used the Harbor submission as a baseline to make sure we had all the issue areas covered. Plus, the TOC has a template that goes through and basically says every proposal needs to have this and this and this in it. And so I've ensured there's 2 missing pieces. As I illustrated in the email that I'm still mopping up in regard to the architecture, the competitive landscape, and the list of dependencies. So once we get those mopped up today, we should have a submission, ready to go as soon as we decide to pull the trigger on that.
Okay, and I have I went through your document. I mean, it's not like I reviewed it extremely carefully, but I have only one question. There are some features that we that work on the project know what they mean. If somebody external has to read it, they may get confused. I gave you an example. Let me look at your document to read it. Oh, this
Excellent.
one. No encapsulation, pure layer 3 and hybrid internode transit. I mean, if you are not working on Antrea, that means probably nothing, right? So
Sure.
how should we go about it? Should we link to GitHub issues? Should we provide some additional explanations?
That's a great question. So what I've seen done on some of the other proposals, and I'd already mentioned it on the roadmap as well, we might want to put all of the, so I'm also updating the roadmap. I have two PRs that I'm submitting today. I submitted the issue yesterday for all the label stuff, and I've made all the changes to Contrib. So that's going to be one PR that's submitted here in just a couple minutes. It's ready to go. The other PR I'm working on is an update to our roadmap.md. So what we might want to do is just, instead of listing them in line in this PR, link out to that roadmap MD, and then there we can actually describe in more depth some context around those issues, if that makes sense.
Okay, makes sense. That makes sense. Perfect.
Awesome.
Right, and then, you know, the other comments that I have are like nitpicking or whatever, so maybe I don't want to use the space on this meeting for that. As soon as you submitted the PR, we can start the discussion on the PR.
Excellent. Excellent. Appreciate that. So that was primarily what I wanted to address this morning. Other than that, we had our some internal discussions around you know, what we want to do in terms of feature sets, and I want to make sure and get that, you know, out to the community and start involving more community members in discussing that roadmap as well. So I've taken all of the input and I'm, like I said, updating that roadmap.md as the basis for that, and we'll be submitting that later today.
All right, thank you.
Any other issues?
No, not with the document. I mean, I'm gonna read through it more carefully this afternoon.
Do we have any other topics scheduled for today, or should we go to the open issue and PR review as usual?
Nothing on my side. Yeah.
All right. All right, so perhaps in terms of open issues, we can continue the discussion where we left last week. So perhaps we can start with Prometheus. And Kobe, do you have an update on the status of the patch?
I am afraid that nothing happened since last week, as my boss is keeping me busy with customer affairs and such. So
Is that
I
your
was
boss?
busy with customer escalations with OpenStack. So
Yeah, I mean, if your boss is keeping you busy with this, I should have a talk with him.
I guess it's a good idea.
Yes.
You might get like hospitalized for talking to yourself and such. But, yeah.
No worry, I will get worse. All right, so what is instead is still discussing the features that we brought up also last week. Do we have an update on the AntCTL work? Because I saw a flurry of emails, but I don't know how many of those were pertaining to AntCTL.
Yeah, I think basically Zhang and Zhe are working on it, but they are in holidays now.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about this. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but at least that agent info command, I think, should be ready for review. And actually, we already reviewed. And once they come back, maybe we can merge very soon.
Okay, okie dokie. So I will say, if nobody objects, the next step in our agenda is to start looking at the 040 release. Or is that, unless you want to bring up some particular feature of bug that deserves discussion. Going 3, 2, 1,
Okay,
0.
maybe, sorry. Yes, I see. I saw that Cody opened an issue regarding what we discussed last meeting, which is make a list of project dependencies and review their licenses. And
Yes.
my question
Yes.
to Cody is, do you know which format this is going to take? And do you have an example from another open source project you can point us to?
There is a standard format. I do not recall what the name of that format is. I will find that and add it to the issue for you, though.
Okay, sounds good. And I think regarding your comment in describe a feasible solution, I think there are tools that can analyze your go.mod and like extract the licenses from project and all that stuff. So
Right.
hopefully
I thought that would be easier just to, instead of us having to do a manual comb of the code, every release, if we just could automate that some way, that would be great.
Cody, is the final goal to produce an OSL file?
Yes.
All right.
I'm sorry, say that again. I thought you said an OSS.
OSL file, an open source license file to be associated with Antrea releases.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's going to be required for a lot of, users that are, part of an enterprise or some other, organization that has an open source compliance policy, right? That they're going to want to know what all open source licenses are used. Plus, if we submit to the CNCF, they're also require that as part of their process.
No, that makes sense. I understand. All right. So good. So now we can go to Antrea 040 release, and to this
Excellent.
goal, I'll try and share my screen. I'll try. I'm not necessarily going to be successful in this. Can you see a browser window?
Yep.
Okay, it worked. All right. So far in the payload, we have 6 issues, 2 bugs, and 4 enhancements. Some of them are have been moved from 030, in particular Prometheus and CTL. And I think this one was also moved from 030, right? The one about exposing the logs. We had already in 030.
Yeah, quite a few of them moved from 030. Actually, all of them except the last one.
Okay. Oh, the one is the one for named port that we already have discussed about. So Antonin, I think that the status, this one should be easy, right? The first one, the cleanup action about Antrea deletion, right?
Yeah, I was busy in the last week, so I didn't make progress on that. But I know that Jianjun left some comments on my PR, so I'm gonna try to take a look at that probably tomorrow and maybe talk to Jianjun about
Sounds good.
adapting the patch. Yeah.
We already said about Prometheus that Kobe's boss is a terrible person, and he should let him more time to work on Prometheus and Antrea.
No, I didn't know. Nobody said that.
You say that. You said your
No.
boss is not making you work on Antrea. Anyway.
There's nothing terrible about this.
Then
Kobe, do we have a set or a separate issue, or is it part of this issue when we're actually creating a schema for the Prometheus metrics that we're going to export? Do we have anywhere where we've listed all of the various things that we want to export?
No. In fact, we kind of tried to reach out and get feedback about this several times. And
Okay.
For now, I just tried to put together, for a starter, like build all the bits and pieces which are required to have Prometheus at all running.
Okay.
And then I started with those which we have in the custom CRD for the controller and the agent.
Mm-hmm. And those are part of the issue. I'm trying to look at this right now. So I think it would be useful to, I can go into the issue. If you want to, Kobe, send me the list that you have currently, and then I will also review that and get with anybody who wants to consume that and try to figure out, make sure we have a comprehensive list. We may not attack them all, in this first issue here, but at least I want to start capturing what are all the Prometheus metrics
Yeah,
that we want.
I guess that we pretty much have to define what metrics
Yep.
do we need to have.
Okay.
Cool. So, yeah, I'll prepare something.
All right. So regarding exposing the logs, we know that this is not really a feature and enhancement that has to go into the product. It's more like, say, an infrastructure enhancement. And we are trying to leverage some internal infrastructure so that we can host these logs somewhere and make them accessible for the entire community. But from the latest updates that I got, there has been no update in the past week, and since John Shang is working on it, is off now for the Chinese New Year holidays. Nothing happening there, I guess. And
Yeah,
CTL,
there's a chance that we're gonna actually move all of it maybe to public cloud. So in this case, we wouldn't have that issue anymore.
that makes
Looks like
sense.
the other solution was gonna be ready first, but since it keeps getting postponed.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, when a while ago we did something similar for the OpenStack CI, and creating a log server was not a big deal. Now we don't control anymore that log server. Is that correct, Kobe? The CI log server.
Control, you mean if we have the credentials for it?
Yeah, do we have the password
Yeah.
for it? Okay,
Well, I have the public key because we keep pushing logs.
that's
into
right. You know, if you want, then
it.
there is a log server we can use.
Yeah, we can.
You know, I also spoke about this with John Sean when he started, but you know, we felt that it was the right thing to do, to have a dedicated log server just for Antrea and not just abuse somebody else's space.
Come on, like it could be like a meantime solution.
Yeah, it can, and we can use it in the meantime, because but that's not used
in
only.
the Israeli way, it's going to be the temporary solution forever. But yeah, we can do that.
That's right, and I don't think that that is not only used by Neutron; it's used by all the OpenStack CIs, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Anyway, this is an option that we can consider if the thing straddles for too long, and because I also know that you know, for pushing the logs to public clouds, there could be budget considerations. So basically, we need to see who's willing to fund it, and so
Yeah.
it's not necessarily feasible.
There was an idea floating around a little while ago that we can apply to AWS for credits now that we're an open source project and we're gaining some momentum.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the list of requirements, it says that it's better if you have contributors from multiple organizations. So that may be an issue. But I think maybe if we become accepted as part of the CNCF Sandbox project, is there any like
There is CNCF. There are CNCF resources that we can utilize for CI/CD, including things like log servers. So it's actually in the request that we would want infrastructure resources for that type of thing. Let me take this, and if you, Salvatore, want to provide me like who I need to talk to regarding the existing CI stack that we have for OpenStack and whatnot and sharing, I'd be happy to go talk to them and work with Pooja to figure out, you know, a budget and where we might be able to acquire space, whether if we go into AWS with credits or without credits.
Cody, do you mean about sharing this server?
Just finding us a place to put the logs, whether that means sharing for the time being, or whether that means finding us a dedicated place, either you know, in a cloud.
Okay.
If the only thing that's missing is a log server, then why not? Like,
I mean, maybe Cody would like the know who owns that log server.
Exactly.
And yeah, that's right. It's used. The thing is that the people the person that I know used to own it and manage it is now left at VMware. So we need to see who is the owner. Surely somebody in Beijing. So it will be next week.
Okay.
Instead, if we want a dedicated one, that will be the option that we are currently pushing, following, trying to achieve, which is, getting a log server publicly exposed with a public IP address. And that's why we have like an internal IT ticket now open it's been open like for 3 months now. And
is there a specific tech or service or like what exactly do you want this log server to include? Are you just wanting a raw host, or are you actually looking for some type of a service?
Well, just a web server, I think. We just need any
web
sort
server?
of web server, yeah.
Okay.
We don't. Is that right, guys? We don't need any web application for log analysis or whatever running there. Just a place to download the logs.
It was just a web server. I think it was. I don't remember if it was a server publicly accessible that would run the Jenkins master, and that Jenkins master would then access an internal testbed to actually run the test, or the Jenkins master was going to post some logs to a separate server which would be publicly accessible.
For the OpenStack case, it's just a server where logs get pushed and people can access the logs, so they don't see any sort of Jenkins instance there. It's just it's just an HTTP server. Anyway, so I'll find it out and I'll let you know, Cody, about this. And
yeah, I'll chase that for you.
And finally, AntCTL, we already discussed the status. Network policy named ports, Abhishek, I don't think there should be any problems in targeting this for 040, is that correct?
Yeah, you should be fine. I think the code is ready. We tested it against the upstream networking conformance test. And there's one test failure, and that was expected. And I have opened an issue for that. And I will try to fix that in the follow-up patch in the 0.40 release itself. So okay. We'll add more unit tests to the current patches. Yeah, we need more reviews.
Perfect. All right. Therefore, we have discussed the current payload for the 040 release. Then my question to the audience is there any additional issue that we will include in this release payload? Do you?
How much effort does the existing set of issues take up over our given release window for February?
I believe that we have probably space to include a few more fixes. Honestly, I don't know what are the other community members currently working on, if they have spare cycles or not to add something else. I know that they're working on, everyone is working on some feature. It depends on whether, Cody, you're thinking of adding some features or some bug fixes. If it's about bug fixes, perhaps somebody's already working on it. If it's about features, then maybe we need to see how big the feature is to see if we can fit it in.
The first thing that I want to, the first thing we should focus on is if there's any existing bugs that are going, we have some internal adopters of Antrea about to take this up on some pretty large clusters. And so I want to make sure that we go through a stabilization round and iron out, any types of bugs that may impact production so that we can start. So for example, any bugs, if there's any additional logs that we think we might need to support a production release, if there are additional metrics that are going to be required to make a large cluster stable, those are the types of issues that I'd really like to see in this next release.
Perfect.
Actually, very few bugs, that we have opened today. And feature-wise, what's not tagged with the 4.0 release is the things that Sue is working on that we presented a couple of weeks ago, which is a no encap mode. So there is an open PR. He's been making progress on it. Maybe we should tag it for this release. I know I'm going to be reviewing today, and I think Chan looked at it already.
I think it's fine. Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish this topic.
No, I want to say it's at this stage for this week. I think it's fine to throw stuff into the release, even if we don't know if we can make it, and then maybe in 2 weeks' time we can remove items that won't make the cut. Go ahead, Cody.
So the other things that I think would be useful for this release, and we may be pulling in some additional help, not just the core committers. We need to come up with a matrix that really outlines the amount of testing and demos that we have done on different, public cloud OS, platform combinations, right? So that we can start understanding and prioritizing what we're going to support as a core community, and then what are some of the optional combinations that will be supported by the extended community. So I'm gonna submit a prioritization of that testing, and then get your feedback on how we go about essentially certifying that Antrea is working. For example, AWS EC2, right? How do we ensure over release by release that we haven't broken the functionality of Antrea on a Kubernetes cluster with kubeadm in AWS EC2? And so I want to put that matrix together and figure out how do we ensure that we have the appropriate testing in place, release over release, to keep that stability.
Makes sense.
Regression test that, yeah.
So should we publish this as a part of sort of documentation, right?
Yes. So I'll put an issue in today, detailing all the things that I'm looking for, and I'd like to start this release, because that's going to be a key roadmap requirement in terms of prioritization, I think.
Okay. All right. So following up on what Cody just said about bugs and stabilization, I would like to host one of the most exciting things that one can do in meetings, a bug scrub. We have only 8 issues open and marked as bugs, which means this could be also a quick thing. The goal will be to assess all the open bugs and assess the seriousness, how complex will be the fix, and whether we can include it in the 040 release. So I will start with the first one in this list, and I think this is the bug that Abhishek was just talking about, right? The 343.
Yeah, that's the one that we
Okay.
found out.
So this one can be tagged with a milestone 040 and done.
Excellent.
Second, the flaky kind end-to-end test, because Antrea test namespace cannot be deleted. Looks like a CI issue, Anton, on this one.
Yes.
RBAC issue?
There is no, it wasn't an RBAC issue. It was basically in our test we delete Antrea and we recreate Antrea to test some cleanup stuff, and that breaks the one of the Antrea Kubernetes APIs, and then because of that, the test namespace cannot be deleted, because as part of the deletion, it like enumerates something with the APIs. I found a workaround, which was like to configure some TCP timeout parameters in Linux, and that's specific to kind. So the workaround is good enough. I wasn't able to figure out why it's only happening in kind and not in an actual cluster, but yeah, there is a workaround. So I don't know if this is the best long-term solution, but it works fine for now. We haven't had like any issue with the kind end-to-end test since it was merged in.
So if we stick with the workaround, what do we do with the bug? Do we keep it open just in case anyone should see it in production? Do we close it, mentioning that for kind we can apply a workaround?
So the workaround is already applied as part of our scripts.
Yeah.
I don't know, because like if you look at every project, they have like I mean, and Kobe talked about it last week, right? Issues become stale when they're not like there is no update in a bit of time. So in this case, we know we have a solution. We know it's not the perfect solution. I don't know what's the right way to go about it.
Is the core root of the issue a way that we manage that namespace in the core code, or is it specific to the end-to-end testing suite?
No, it's because when you run OVS in user space mode, as we need to do for kind, and we delete Antrea, there is some like interfaces being destroyed and being brought up again. As part of this, there are some the contract connection table is affected, and we lose some information about some existing connection. When we restart Antrea, for some reason, instead of those connections being reset when they try to resend packet, they're like kept open until the TCP timeout kicks in, and by default, that TCP timeout is like 10 minutes. So TCP will keep retrying with exponential backoff until you hit 10 minutes. So my fix was.
So you're just clearing the connection tracking table, or I'm sorry,
No,
go ahead. You said
I tried all of that. The only thing that
Okay.
worked for me in the end, I tried a bunch of things, was to decrease the TCP timeout to 5 seconds. And so basically now, because everything runs on one host, 5 seconds is perfectly fine when everything is running. And and after that, basically TCP gives up, close the connection. If you need a new one, it will reestablish a new one. If you're just deleting the namespace, and it's just gonna go ahead with deleting the namespace.
So we think this is only going to be in user space when we're putting OVS in user space.
Yes, I think it's only gonna be because and only when you do like weird stuff like deleting Antrea and reapplying Antrea.
My vote is to close the issue unless somebody else has a different opinion on it.
I think that Anton already said that the issue will anyway go stale if nobody sees it in a while. An open issue is more visible than a closed issue. It is an interesting issue, I have to say, and I don't know enough about kind to be able to understand what could be the difference in the way the connection is established. Ideally, I will look at some. It's not necessarily some bug, but some unexpected behavior in the kube proxy probably, and or something that the kube proxy should do to abruptly close the TCP connections. But I'm just speculating here. But I think Sue did a good analysis in the last comment here. So
yeah,
we can start.
And I agree with you. I actually spent a couple hours trying to look into this, and I do think it has nothing to do with Kubernetes or even Antrea. I think it's more about how we use, OVS in Antrea, yes, but I think the only workaround we will really find is how we set up OVS or some Linux networking tweak. And so I don't think it has anything to do with Kubernetes. And I wish I found the root cause, which in my opinion is the TCP connection should get reset immediately because there is no longer any mapping for it in the contract table. And I don't know why it's not happening.
That's right. Anyway, so for the purpose of our goal, it's not something that we want to target with a 040. The next one, I think it's a little bit more interesting. Kube API server error logs caused by system Antrea Tanzu VMware.com. Antonin, do you have more details on this?
Yeah, as I was debugging the issue we just looked at, I saw there were some error logs in kubelet for our API that we expose at the controller for NCTL to consume. And so I opened this bug because I just saw it. So I thought that I would open it while it was fresh. It is unrelated to the previous issue. I think it's just we're not like populating some field in
Makes
some
sense.
Abstract, something like this. Yeah.
I will target it for 040. It seems a good thing to do not have error logs emitted.
Maybe we should assign someone to who was. It's Wake Young, right? Who?
Yes, we did the CRD.
Work on this, yeah.
Okay, so I'll tentatively assign. Okay. All right. So let's do ingress network policies are not honored when user accesses the pod via node port service. This has now been open for almost a month, right? Alok filed it. Do we have somebody looking at it? Chan did from external.
Oh, this one is for the load port, right?
Yes,
that's the one we talked about last time, I believe. Basically, what will happen that for any traffic to access the service from node port, currently our let policy will blindly allow the traffic.
All right. Yeah, I remember this one. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, we discussed a little with Quan. I think Quan's idea is like at least we should drop the traffic, and I think he has a proposal for that.
Okay. Okay. All right. So maybe for this one, we will not yet target. We'll first see what's Chuan's feedback once is back from vacation. Perfect. Then we have test IP block with accept end-to-end flaky unkind. Antonin?
Did I open that? I think this, oh.
Is very old.
Yes, and I think in a way it may have been the issue that with issue 324, we talked about it. So to work around that, we actually were skipping the test on kind. And
okay.
Can we assign this one to me? I think I will just try to run the test like a couple times now that we have the workaround. And if it was indeed the same root cause issue, we can just like re-enable the test for the kind CI.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, then we already discussed about issue 181. Let's move to 152. Antrea agent must update the brint bridge if the data path type has changed. Now, this is one of the oldest one that I believe we have in the project. Is this something that we want or can target to 040, or is this bug still valid, the first thing?
It is still valid.
Okay.
I don't think it's a high priority bug. I don't have time to work on this definitely before.
That's yeah, but that's still related to kind, right?
No, it's not related to kind.
Okay, because I heard it was like switching from system to NetDev, and so.
Yes, but I think we had a talk a while back with someone bringing up that it would be nice to actually be able to run the Antrea data plane in user space mode without the kernel module.
Okay, I see.
Even on an actual test bed, if a drastic performance loss is acceptable. Just in case, I don't know, maybe the OBS kernel module is not available or something.
Anyway, as I said, not high priority one, so not something that needs to be targeted to 040. And the last one is the network policy should support named port, of which we already discussed. Said that now the payload 4040 is slightly modified. We have 10 items in the payload. Sorry. While I was talking, somebody unexpectedly appeared in the release payload. So now we have the support for no incap mode. Maybe some of you added it?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I'm also doing what we discussed while we discussed it here.
And then you also added the support IPsec for tunnel traffic, right? Or Janjun did?
Yes, I moved it. There was only one remaining item, which is Janjun said he wanted to document the feature. We couldn't make it in time for 3.0, so I just like,
okay.
But everything else is already implemented.
All right, so the release payload now looks good. Let's see if we can make everything. Let's try and make everything in this list. That would be great. And say that my part of the agenda is exhausted. So I will probably open the floor for open discussion if anybody has anything to bring up.
So the only other thing I was going to quickly mention, I was going to share with the team the website proof. So you can take a quick look at that. I'll post that into the Antrea channel today so that you can give me any feedback on anything that's glaringly wrong or needs to be added. Additionally, as mentioned, I'll add some additional PRs around, issues around not only the matrix, but some documentation that needs to be created for the various deployment environments. And then finally, I'm also working on getting us some additional performance numbers and try to include some reporting on performance for this next release as well.
Okay, cool. All right. And anything else you'd like to bring up for today? Any interesting thing? Any joke you like to share with the team?
I got one.
Check it for political correctness.
Well,
Is-
maybe only my American friends that grew up here would get this one. But how do you find Will Smith in the snow? Check for fresh prints.
Fresh pens.
Fresh prints.
Yeah. Fresh
It's
Prince of
an old show.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
There you go. That's the best as I got.
All right. And on this bombshell, we can.
Should I cut this off when I upload the video to YouTube?
Well, I got one more. If anybody has ever gone to a driver's license office, right? So what did the son of the driver's license office worker say? He comes from a long line of long lines. Ta-dum-dum. Sorry, that's all I got.
And on this bombshell, we can call it a day for today.
You'll have a great day.
All right. Thank you very much. The recording will be shared as soon as it's available.
And edited, hopefully.
I'll only keep one of those jokes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks, Antonin. Bye-bye.
Bye.